Looks like I won't be sleeping alone tonight. Happy Tuesday, everyone. A former Clinton administration staffer claims that Hillary was so detested that she was known as a Nazi school marm. I think we have a shot of the staffer here. Meanwhile, administrators in Pennsylvania are investigating how a kindergartner was able to hand out Jell-O shots to his classmates. The outraged principal saying, "We don't tolerate that kind of behavior here at Kamala Harris Elementary School." A high school female track star posed on the first place podium after finishing second to a trans athlete. Yeah. You can tell she's a real girl because she's bad at math.
A sexist would say.
Tricked all of you. Former FBI Director James Comey denied calling for the assassination of Trump and claims he's, quote, just a grandfather who likes wearing sweaters, jeans, and going for nice walks on the beach. Wow, somebody's auditioning for the Golden Bachelor. Several states are taking action against lab-grown meat. At least one state, though, has made it legal for lab-grown meat to have its own show. I call him LGM. The Department of Homeland Security conducted its first self-deport operation, dubbed Project Homecoming, since the name Operation Off was already taken. And finally, when Sean Diddy Combs surrendered to federal agents last year, they found baby oil, lubricant, ketamine, MDMA, Klonopin, and $9,000 in cash in his hotel room. In his defense, he says he was just holding it for this man. Brett Bear, everybody. I love me some Brett Bear. Thank you, Brett. All right, so the Biden book, Original Sin, is finally out, and so are the reviews. According to Politico, it describes Biden as a, quote, ailing geriatric leader surrounded by mendacious aides, while the Washington Post details an elderly, egotistical president shielded from reality by a slavish coterie of loyalists. Never said that word before. So ailing, mendacious, egotistical, and that's from media outlets that spent 4 years smooching Biden's wrinkly ass. They were so far up his butt, I'm surprised they didn't diagnose the cancer. Thank you. Enough. But does this book tell the whole story? Because even as the media is just now admitting this scandal was real, we know they're complicit. They took their own sweet time addressing the greatest fraud in presidential history, waiting till now, of course, to spill the beans. Oh, sure, the media could have made an honest mistake, like when they said Hunter's laptop was fake, or the Fine People hoax was real, or that Tim Walz has a penis. But what if the Biden cover-up was by design, orchestrated to protect not the president, but to enable a radical agenda? Anyone could tell Joe was feeble. But what if Biden's decline wasn't caused by disability, but by debility, meaning he was purposely kept exhausted, confused, and miserable, like an overnight shift worker or Fox and Friends viewer? He was unfit, but it wasn't treated, it was welcomed. Speeches, events, and overseas trips took their toll on Biden. He became unable to function while his staff controlled his schedule to protect him, or so we thought. They could have easily told the world, hey, this guy's no longer the man he used to be. Let's practice what we preach, country over party. Instead, they treated him like Colonel Tom Parker treated Elvis. Kept him full of meds and continued to push him out in front of live audiences and bright lights. The only difference being when Elvis forgot the words to Hound Dog, it didn't endanger the lives of everybody in the audience. Letting Joe fade was the perfect crime because his condition made him docile. It's like when you exhaust your dog with a long walk before you have guests over. I don't want Gus humping Dana Perino's leg. Or for that matter, vice versa. So the story isn't just the cover-up of Joe's incapacity, it's why. And yes, they didn't want America to know they pulled a giant, horrible prank on them in 2020, and they also didn't want to get massacred in 2024. But the fact is, a debilitated Biden was an ideal Biden. An enfeebled boss meant the underlings could do exactly what they wanted. I'm certain that's why my staffers insist I eat an entire turkey for dinner and then make me watch Special Report. But it solves the paradox of the last 4 years. How did a candidate promoted as a reasonable centrist end up as the most radically progressive president in history? The one who let our border dissolve, crime explode, and men invade women's spaces. It's simple. His debility was not a bug in the system, it was the system. An absent president meant others had control of the reins, and the signs are there, like the absurd number of people granted clemency, or the orgy of auto-penned EOs. What, you think they nail-gunned the auto-pen to Joe's hand while he was out like a light dreaming of corn pop and cannibals? So now they want to talk about Biden's health? Sorry, the jig is up. They can't pretend they're compassionate caregivers protecting a fragile leader when we now know how the policies under Joe were anything but feeble. Biden was a mess, but the policies were a coherent wish list for the woke. The freaks running the show knew exactly what they were doing. Sure, their decisions were horrible and destructive, but they were also deliberate and no product of dementia, which makes it way worse than criminal. It's treason. They exploited an unhealthy elderly man, and we can't let them get away with it. So yeah, it's tragic Joe has cancer, but the people who propped him up for 4 years, they are a cancer. And it's time they got the treatment they deserve. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He's always surprised when his act gets laughs. Actor, writer, comedian Jamie Lissow. If her name got any more Irish, her name would be Guinness Potato Famine. Republican strategist Aaron McGuire. Doing our show gives him an opportunity to pee indoors. Founder of StudioTSD.com, Michael Loftus. And if you watched her on MTV, you're due for a colonoscopy. Host of the Kennedy Saves the World podcast, Kennedy. Jamie, you're used to your ex-wife running the show.
Yep.
Was this situation all orchestrated? Was it really Joe's fault at all?
I don't know. You make a good point there. Maybe it was not his fault at all. I read the book. I think it's a great title.
You read the book?
Yeah, because think about what a good idea, because it's called The Original Sin. And did you know that Joe Biden's first job was a gardener in Eden? Yeah, and I'm a fan of. I love a book about Joe being mentally incapacitated while being a president. It's part of the Super Obvious series by this publisher. Yeah. Looking forward to the other two books. They got one coming out called The Earth is Round, and then another one called The View Sucks.
And what did you take away from the release of Original Sin?
Well, the original sin was the choice by the Democrat Party to lie to the American people about the man they propped up to be president of the United States. I worked on the 2020 campaign for President Trump. We regularly said he is an empty vessel being filled by the radical left. And oh, whoopsie poopsie, we happen to be completely correct, because Ron Klain, his chief of staff, who was still in that inner sanctum as Joe Biden fell apart, was pursuing incredibly aggressive progressive policies that now we're having to pay for. And when we all stood up in 2020 and pointed out the obvious, not only about his decline, but about the radical left, we were shouted down on network after network. And now when people get book deals, it's so easy to all of a sudden state the obvious and be okay with that being in print.
Aaron, I just have to stop you right there. Did you really just say whoopsie poopsie? I mean, I don't think in my career anybody has ever said whoopsie poopsie on my show.
Glad I could be the first. I feel honored.
Where is that from your childhood, or whoopsie poopsie?
Yeah, you know, just a little rhyme, a little turn of phrase.
Whoopsie poopsie.
You're welcome. You can keep that one.
I'm gonna steal it. Whoopsie poopsie.
That was
Loftus.
Whoopsie Poopsie was my rap name in college.
Whoopsie Poopsie is like a product for incontinence for elderly rappers.
It's the Joe Biden underwear line.
When you laugh.
Do you suffer from Whoopsie Poopsie? Are you president of the United States?
You know, you got to feel some kind of chagrin. You know, you were saying right up front early on that Biden was incapacitated, and everyone at the soup kitchen laughed at you.
They did.
Yes.
They did, and I didn't like that. So I took my shopping cart and I just went out to the sidewalk and I went home.
Yes. And
yeah, I don't like. I'm not going to buy the book.
No.
If I want Joke Trapper to lie to me, I can just watch it on TV. The guy, like, it's a farce that he wants now to charge people money to listen to. I was tricked. I was fooled. We thought he was fine. And here's the other thing that I want to know. Where was the GOP on this? Mm-hmm. You got the Speaker of the House now going, yeah, Joe totally forgot about signing an executive order. Dude, there's an owner's manual. The Founding Fathers put the 25th Amendment in there. You can go, hey, look, that guy's a mental case. We should maybe do a switcheroo on that. It's madness.
it is madness.
Total madness.
Extreme madness.
It's the kind of madness that makes you say whoopsie poopsie.
Kennedy, I get a second dose of you in one day. You were just on the 5.
darling.
It was delightful. It is clear that while Biden was a mess, the policy wasn't. That's so interesting to me. We sat there and go, like, everything's falling apart. But there was a lot of policy that was hard left.
There was a lot of policy that we didn't like.
Yes.
But it was very cohesive if you're looking at a group of people who are entirely progressive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look at the Inflation Reduction Act.
Yeah.
That had nothing to do with inflation reduction. That was all a big climate bill.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they were doing with every executive order. It was just a new way to push forward their political agenda that was very, very far to the left. And now they conveniently want you to move past that. Unfortunately, the people who put that entire Biden system in place, they're still in power. You know, Hakeem Jeffries, he met with the president. He knew how far in decline he was. So did Chuck Schumer, but it benefited them because they were in power at the beginning of the Biden administration.
Yes.
You know, you also had Jill Biden, and she got all the stuff. She got the gowns and the ball and the jet. She got everything. James and Hunter, Joe's brother and son, they got rich when there was the threat of the Biden presidency and the ultimate power play. That's when the grift went off. Jill didn't do that. She waited patiently, and once she got there, she wasn't going to let it go. And guess what? Joe is a narcissistic blowhard as well. He got to be president, and that's all he ever wanted was to be on the placemat, really close to his best friend, Barack Obama, just one inconvenient guy in between them.
Yes.
And so they all built the system together. They knew what they were doing. And when the Jenga piece was pulled out, which was the last shred of his memory and cognitive function, and the whole thing fell apart, guess who was the moderator at the debate where he imploded? Jake Tapper.
Yes. And you know what we say to that? Whoopsie poopsie. Whoopsie poopsie.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.